Welcome to Wanies Academy. My name is Olatoye Laiwola. Today's episode is the part 2 of punctuation marks. Now, focus is going to be on the comma and the colon. It is the uses of the comma and the uses of the colon, both the technical use and the creative use of these two punctuation marks. By the end of this lesson, students should be able to explain the use of the importance of punctuation marks and state the uses of comma and colon. 3, use comma and colon technically and creatively in writing. Now, comma, symbol is represented in the bracket there. Now, the first use of the comma is to separate phrases or clauses. For instance, we have, if you keep calm, take your time, concentrate and think ahead, then you are likely to pass your test. Second example, we have, worn out after all the excitement of the party, the children soon fell asleep. In this second example, we can see that the comma here is used to place a boundary between the two clauses, the dependent clause and the independent clause. The dependent clause is worn out after all the excitement of the party, while the independent clause is the children soon fell asleep. So this comma is used here to place a boundary between two clauses. The same thing we have in the first example. If you keep calm, comma, that's the first clause, take your time, the second clause, concentrate and think ahead, another clause, then you are likely to pass your test. It's the final clause. The second use of the comma is to separate items in the same list. This is a very common use of the comma, where we use it to place, to separate items in the list, in the same list. So she traveled to America, Canada, and Australia. Now, before I go to the creative use of the comma, there is an illustration that I usually give to illustrate or to explain the use of the comma, and that is the clutch in a vehicle. Now, when a driver is on the highway or the full speed and he needs to slow down, the driver will need to match on the clutch. And the purpose of matching on the clutch is to do what? Is to slow down the speed of the vehicle. Now, the same thing with the use of the comma. When you are reading, when there is a co-articulation of speech, reading a long sentence, at a point in time in the speech, the speaker will need to pause. The speaker will need to pause at a point, and that moment where the speaker is supposed to pause, that is the point where the speaker needs to march on the what? On the clutch. 1 hour after all the excitement of the party, there is a pause there that is need to slow down, because we can't read the entire sentence by saying 1 hour after all the excitement of the party, the children soon fell asleep. No, there must be a pause in this boundary. 1 hour after all the excitement of the party, the children soon fell asleep. 1 hour after all the excitement of the party, the children soon fell asleep. So the speaker needs to hold on to the clutch to slow down the speech after party before kicking off from the children soon fell asleep. So the same thing is applicable to the first sentence. Even when listing items, we can't read it, we can't rush through everything. She traveled to America, Canada, and Australia. She traveled to America, Canada, and Australia. So the comma is like a clutch. I need to be what? I need to slow down the speed or the pace of the speech. And of course, why the full stop will be the brake itself, when you hold on to the brake to stop the vehicle completely. So that is the purpose of pause, or what we call the stop, full stop, or period. Okay, let's proceed to the creative use of the comma. Commas help to control the rhythm, pacing, and flow of sentences. Yes, it controls the pace, helps to slow down where there need to be a pause. Creatively, they can mimic natural speech, show hesitation, or build tension in descriptive or narrative writing. Now to the colon. This is the symbol for the colon in the brackets. Number 1, the first use of the colon is to introduce a list of items. Now, this can go hand in hand with the comma. There are 4 options, colon. So after the 4 options that you have mentioned, you will need to list options. So before you list the options, there should be a comma that will serve as an introduction to the list of items that is about to be mentioned. So these are 4 options, colon. We go by train and leave before the end of the show, or we take the car and see it all. These are the options. This sentence here is a summary of the entire sentence. There are two options mentioned in the sentence here, but we have a sentence that serves as a summary of the entire sentence. So the summary, take colon. What comes after the colon is what? An elaboration of what has been summarized before. So when we have an elaboration and a summary, then there should be a boundary in between. And that boundary is to be signified by what? By the colon. Now, in the second use, we have informal writing before a clause or phrase that gives more information about the main clause. Of course, here we can use the semicolon or full stop, but not a comma instead of a colon. Now, look at this example we have. The garden had been neglected for a long time. It was overgrown and full of weeds. Now, if you look at where we place a colon in the sentence, that's a boundary between two ideas, two interrelated ideas, two related ideas. The garden had been neglected for a long time. And we have it was overgrown and full of weeds. So the first sentence, the first part is like it's like a claim. You're making a claim, a garden that has been neglected. It's a claim. Then the second part is like the reason for the claim. That is the reason why the garden has been neglected. The second part is stating the reason why the garden has been neglected, and that is what? It was overgrown and full of weeds. So the two parts are related. So when we have a sentence where we have two ideas related that are related, and there need to be a boundary in between, the colon is the best option. Of course, in this same context, we can use the semicolon or probably put a full stop, and the second sentence that starts with it will be written in capital letter. Creative use of the colon. The colon can build anticipation, give dramatic pause, or spotlight what follows what for emphasis, or spotlight what follows for emphasis. It is often used to create a punchy, powerful rhythm in writing. Now, this creative use of the colon and of the comma will be illustrated in the text. With this text, so we're going to read this text and cite and analyze the uses of colon and the uses of the comma here. Now let's read the text. She paused at the door, hand trembling. There was only one thing left to do: open it. The room beyond was full of strange things: a flickering lamp, a dusty mirror, and a journal with a torn cover. Carefully, she stepped inside. Her breath slow, controlled, cautious. The air was cold, but the tension, thick, heavy, was colder. Now we have the analysis here. Now the use of the colon. Now there was only one thing left to do: open it. We can see the colon in the use of the colon here, used for emphasis and dramatic effects. There was only one thing to do: put a colon, and after the colon, that thing that needs to be done is stated after the colon. So that is used to emphasize, for emphasis, and of course, to create a dramatic effect. The second part, we have full of strange things: flickering lamp, a dusty mirror, and so on. The strange things are what mentioned here. Full of strange things. That is, what are the strange things? The flickering lamp, dusty mirror, and the rest. So it introduces a list creatively and clearly, full of strange things. So we have a column. Then after that, we have what? The list of the strange things that are, as is mentioned in the first part of the sentence. Therefore, the comma, we have a flickering lamp, a dusty mirror, and a journey. Of course, here we use the comma to separate the list of items. Then we have an introductory adverb. Carefully, she steps inside. Carefully, she steps inside. So we use the comma here to mark off an introductory adverb. This is stating the manner in which this person steps inside carefully. Of course, this carefully needs to be marked off with a comma because it is an introductory adverb. And lastly, we have a breath, slow, controlled, cautious. So this builds rhythm and tension, creative use for effect. A breath, slow, controlled, cautious. It is building up. It's like a built-up conflict. Building up. It's a building of rhythm and tension. You can sense the conflict. The conflict, what we call the climax. The building of the climax. It is ascending. The tension is ascending. A breath, slow, controlled, cautious. So we use a comma to build tension in creative writing. We use a comma to do it, to build tension, a built-up climax in a text. So these are the creative use of these two punctuation marks in writing. So I believe by now you already understand the uses of these two punctuation marks, their technical uses, and of course, their creative uses as illustrated in here. Thank you.